Before you start rendering in Twinmotion, it's important to add a camera view inside of Revit so that you can see if there are any details that are missing or anything that should be added to the model before you bring it into Twinmotion or before you finish in Twinmotion. To do so, we're going to go to the Quick Access toolbar, hit the drop down for the default 3D view, and then you'll see a camera option. Click on the camera option and then go back to your floor plan and first click anywhere that you want to be standing. Second, click anywhere that you want to be looking. Just make sure that you pull this target all the way outside the house. If you stop here, that will be the extent of your view. You won't even see this back wall. If you go out here beyond the house, see everything that you need to on the inside. Once we're here, we've got a frame around the camera view, which we can enlarge, or we can simply zoom in and zoom out. None of this matters too much in this view because we're not exporting this for an actual rendering. We just want to see the inside of the house. So in this case, I'm just going to keep pulling the grips until the space becomes large enough to see. You may be interested in changing the view style. Consistent colors are probably the best. You might get away with using textures. Sometimes that just slows down the project too much. In my 3D view, you can see that I've got the beginning of a ceiling on only one side. I've got my kitchen started, but it's not finished. I may have areas that look or appear to be unresolved, like this roof not really terminating at the underside of the ceiling over here. And then of course I may want a lot more entourage. There are some things in terms of detail that I really need to add though. I don't have any baseboard in here yet. And if I wanted any crown molding, this would be the time to place that too. So even though those will all take place in another video, let's talk just a little bit more about how to use this camera effectively. If I go back to my first floor, you can see that the camera placement, which was somewhere in here, isn't visible. That camera happens to be called 3D View 6. So if I want to find it and I can't see it on the floor plan, I'll have to come over here to my project browser. Under 3D views, these are all the cameras that I've set up. And each time you place a new one, it'll get the same name with just a new number. And that's kind of a bad way to work. You can see that early on I placed a few cameras and I actually renamed them. It's important that you do that because these don't have any meaning to me anymore. Over time, I can't remember where they were placed or what they're looking at. So right here, I can rename this one and I'll say Great Room. Looks like I've already got a couple in that spot or that area, but that's okay. This new one, we'll call it Great Room. Okay, and if you want to see the camera and see its location on the floor plan, just right click on it and say Show Camera. There it is. It's going to disappear again. Unfortunately, as soon as I click on anything, that camera view is just going to disappear. There's no way to tell them to be turned on permanently, which is kind of a disappointment. Anyways, the other way that I can make this show up is I can go to my Great Room view, and I can click on the little boundary around the perimeter, then go back to the floor plan, and you can see it does the same thing as telling it to show camera if I right click over here. And once the camera is active, this is another way of changing up the view. I think I'd like to do this with two views side by side though. This is what my camera view looks like now. If I come over here and I move the target, you'll see it all update over here. If I move the position of it without moving the target, it gets a different kind of update. Another way to move what the camera is looking at is to simply use your orbit tools, which is Shift on the keyboard and then hold down the wheel on your mouse. And you can see that I'm able to just sort of rotate the view around, and this does adjust the actual camera too. Usually what I like to do if I really want to make a change though is to go over here to the full navigational wheel, click to open that up, and then you can see how many different options you've got to look around or move around. The look is very effective. This is orbit just like I was doing before. I've got the ability to walk forward, backward. It's a little fast. And if you mess up like I just did, just go to rewind. It'll bring everything back in view. And you can play around with the other ones here. They're pretty obvious. The zoom one I don't like so much. It seems to cause distortion, or just like this, you get lost quickly. I'm probably inside of a wall behind me. So what I like to do instead, click on the drop down here increase, decrease focal length. And then this just takes that view without any distortion, either pushes it further back or pulls it closer. And the way that you do it is you actually have to click with your left mouse, and then I'm just moving the mouse up and down while I hold down the left mouse button. Okay, and that's all you need to know about cameras. Remember, it's really important to keep them organized, and we'll simply use this to be able to see some of the detail, but this view itself will not transfer over into Twinmotion.